Why have we been suffering for 2,000 years with him not coming? So you got to answer that question, because otherwise there's no point to any of this. It's just him, actually that makes him an evil being that's just torturing us. If there's no point, and he could just bring us all up there anytime he wants, then there's no point. That's evil. He's just letting us all suffer miserably down here in this fleshly world for no reason. My beautiful daughter.
Hello.
Hey. All right, so Brianna's gonna start us off.
Oh, okay. Okay, this one's just pretty simple, but I just thought maybe it's something to bring up. But so regarding the growth path of challenge, I was wondering how you approach, or what your opinion on burnout is, because I know overall choosing this path is overall better than choosing the path of existence, but there's also, am I right to assume that scheduling out downtime to avoid harmful practices and promote a healthy balance, as long as it's done with intention? Like, I thought that might be an added piece, is you're intentionally choosing to set time aside for something rather than it being killing time. Is that kind of the right way to think about it?
Yeah, yes. No, I get what you're saying, and I think a lot of people will understand this, but here's the thing, right? We want to make sure that we understand that we're on a journey. So let's say that journey was a car, like drive from here in Tennessee to California or someplace West Coast, okay? You could, I guess, drive straight through, but you may want to, for having a healthier, quality of life journey, stop a few times. So it's not always about go, go, go. If the breaks are a part of making the quality of life and your effectiveness in the go, go, go better, then it's actually a part of the plan. So you plan the rest stops. Okay, look, some of you can maybe remember when you were in your 30s or 20s, you could go a 14, 15-hour drive straight through. Then you get to be 50, 60, and you're thinking, I need to stop at least once or twice, all right, whatever it is. Because you recognize there are requirements, quality of life-wise, for you to not crash and burn trying to push, push, push. So it's not that you have to be go, go, go all the time. It's just that all of the things, including your rest, your refreshment, these are all things that are a part of your moving forward, okay? That's why he gives us the Sabbath for rest. So he wants to make sure we do that at least one day a week, okay? Was that what you wanted?
Yeah, just.
Okay.
And then, I don't know if this.
Look, you can have downtime. Don't think you can't goof off and have downtime, all right? But it should be downtime with the purpose that I'm purposely choosing the next couple of hours or having a day to just have downtime, because I need downtime. Downtime is not complacency, it's not being lazy, it's purposeful refreshment, if it's purposeful refreshment. If you have more downtime than productive time, then it's not that, okay? But if you know you need, monitor yourself, you might need downtime. There are times when I sleep in and times when I don't. I recognize when I need to have one or the other, and it's based on just my gauging, where I'm at, all right? And so, there are times, my daughter could tell you, she remembers this, we used to leave from here on a Saturday night, sometimes 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'd get home, I want something mindless to just kind of unwind with. I'd put on some show about people, I don't know, they were gold mining or whatever, okay? Okay, I'd like to watch that show, Gold Rush. And it would be like an hour. Everybody in the family left me alone. Then when it was done, I was ready to get back to whatever needed to be back. I gave them attention, I did my stuff, whatever it was. But they knew and I knew, after pushing and doing all day long and everything else, I just needed a nothing time, okay? And so if it's part of the bigger picture, it's not only appropriate, it's necessary, okay? You need to have built-in downtime. Because some of you feel guilty if you take downtime. Don't feel guilty when you take downtime. You need a certain amount of it, but you have to figure out how much you need. I may need more or less than you. Everybody's different, right? But you have to be honest with yourself and say, okay, what is effective downtime for me? Everybody's different. My wife walked in on me as I was working on this teaching. I had the TV on. I had this computer laptop on, 2 screens, and I had a headset on. And she was like, how are you watching, listening, and doing all of this at the same time? I said, what do you mean? Okay, it's the way my brain works, okay? But yes, I had something listening on my ear for whatever reason, and I was also watching something I was monitoring. I was more listening to this, but watching that, and I had the screen, and I was paying attention, and I had the scriptures open. That's my level of ADHD, okay, or ADD. But that doesn't mean that that's what you need, right? And so when you see the energy level and the go, go, go that I have, that may not be where your level is. But you can go to wherever your peak level is and get yourself to that level, right? And then that same thing with downtime. When you need downtime, I've had people, my wife's a go, go, go person. If she ever takes any time off, she gets all apologetic. I'm like, stop apologizing, okay? You can take time off and do what you need and take care of you. No reason to apologize. Okay, there's 2 people in this, 2 groups of people I really want to address. Thank you for bringing this up, Brianna. 2 people that really need to listen. One, those of you that never, okay, think twice about just taking as much downtime, more downtime than you need. You're going overboard, okay? Okay, that group of people, you need to be more focused and use downtime more effectively and not just go get lost in downtime, all right? The other group of people, take your downtime and stop feeling guilty, okay? Because I know a few of you counsel with me, and I have to beat on you to say, you needed the downtime, stop feeling unproductive and lazy and this and that, because maybe a mother or a father or somebody in your life told you that you were being that. But if you know you need the time, you need the time. But I didn't get to do this other stuff, and that's okay. You made a decision that something was more important at that moment, okay? You need the downtime. Now, the other side of me, from having all that equipment going and everything else, I could be in the reverse where no matter what I do, I can't focus, and I just don't fight it. I sit down and do something else until I get my head back to where I feel like I can focus. Sometimes that's what I need to do. Instead of sitting there fighting and being very unproductive, like, let's say I'm being effective at like 20% or less because I'm fighting with it, instead of taking the actual break and then going up and giving 100%. So why sit there struggling to get a pathetic 10% that's probably not even that good done, instead of recognizing I'm just not in the right place right now. Let me do whatever I need to get that fixed until I'm ready to get back, right? Use some wisdom, learn yourself, learn what you need, and just don't get lost in the downtime. All right, Brianna.
So this next one's hopefully not confusing or something that you already answered, but it was just something I was thinking about in relation to the kingdom. So you were saying something about mortality is what kind of gives meaning to our choices. And so I was thinking about how when we live forever, like what would make it meaningful? I don't know if that makes sense, but is the growth path, because that's the thing that we're doing now, but is it still relevant as a being of light rather than a being of flesh? Because I know that growth is always like something that's measurable, but in a time where like it's forever, there isn't really any measurable like deadline to be made. So I was just curious how that would work.
All right, no, I understand. All right, so I believe, not a whole lot of verses for this, but I believe that we're gonna have an incredible abundance of challenging things to do in the forever, okay? I believe there's gonna be a tremendous number of exciting, challenging things to do in the forever. What we're developing now is a pattern of behavior, habits, that when we get projects to do, when we have things to accomplish, when we have challenges that we face, that we have ways to handle those things. Because Abba may give you a project and a deadline for that project. Even though you may live forever, the project needs to get done within a time frame that he wants it done, whatever that is. Here's your project, I expect it done this way. And we have developed the habits and skill sets, okay, to do that, to be able to work on a deadline and be able to also work through things that could be challenging. And so we're developing those habits now, okay? Because some of you are very good drivers because you developed good habits when you started driving. Some of you are terrible drivers because you developed bad habits when you started driving. And so even though now you do either one of you, category-wise, either one of you in those categories may do things without thinking a whole lot, either driving well or driving poorly, it's because you've already developed the habits and skills to do it. So it doesn't matter if you have forever or not. Once you develop the habits and skills, whether it's in forever or not, you're going to be able to effectively be in that place and react and respond appropriately to tasks that come up, challenges that come up. Does that make sense? We're all good?
I didn't have a question. I just wanted to come up here and say thank you. Once again, you finally answered a question that I've been trying to ask you a million times, but you just said it perfectly. It was kind of, how do I put it? It was kind of like how when you, me, and Mike, and I think Elder might have been in the office too, when you were standing up, Mike and I were sitting at the round table, and you said what you said. You know what I'm talking about?
No idea, and I don't know why it matters.
Of course not.
I don't know why it matters who was standing and who was sitting and what table, but that's okay.
Okay, it was when we were talking about Paul, and you were like, to forgive yourself.
Okay, I remember now.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I didn't want to go further. And you just did the same thing there.
Paul, not the apostle, but yes. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yes, thank you. He's the opposite. I just wanted to say thank you, because when you said you can redeem yourself, that just helped all the 40 years of crap I've gone through.
Well, good.
And, especially with Megan passing away, and I finding out yesterday, because she went through hard, she was with us, and it's just, I was down all day yesterday, or not yet, all last night, and even this morning, I was like, if only I could have just changed it and not invite her and this and this and this, and it's like, I feel like I'm screwed, I feel like I've screwed everyone, and then you said that, and I'm just like, okay, he just said you, just for me, I know it was him, through you, completely wiped that slate clean. And that's what I needed in conjunction with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ephesians 5:15. See then that you walk exactly. That immediately struck me that ties directly into follow the pattern exactly. And in that case, the pattern is Yeshua. We need to walk like him. And also, it ties into let this mind be in you.
Amen. Amen. You would think, okay, if I told you about Messiah, let's say you didn't have the scriptures and all that's written in it, right? And you believed me, and I told you about Messiah, and I told you about his life, and I told you some of the things he did. If I told you that he kept the Sabbath with the Jews on Saturday, you might think, wow, I should probably do what he did. If you found out that he kept the feasts from Leviticus 23, you might think, I might need to do what he did. I don't know why you would think he would do it only to tell you you don't have to do it. That just doesn't make any sense. I know it doesn't make any sense, but you don't want to hear that yet because it's not comfortable and convenient to the life you have right now. But why would you not? It says imitate. We just read that in the beginning. It says, become then imitators of Elohim as beloved children. And Paul at other places says, imitate Messiah as I, imitate me as I imitate Messiah is what he says. Okay, in other places. What about this is so hard for you to understand? He did these things. Why would you not imitate and do what he did? And why would he do it? Well, he did it so we don't have to. Where is that verse anywhere? Okay. There is no such verse where he did so you don't have to. There's not a verse anywhere that he said he did anything that you need to do, so that you don't have to do it. Okay, that is a church made up garbage. You bought into it because you didn't know any better. I'm not picking on you, okay? But you've been lied to. All you pastors, don't get mad at me and make all kinds of attack videos. Think about it. You've been pushing a lie. You didn't know it, maybe. You just, kind of bought into whatever you were told in seminary. I used to call it cemetery because where independent thought goes to die. But you just not thinking straight, okay? Messiah came to set an example to be imitated. So why would he then turn around and say, well, now that I've done all this, you don't have to? That doesn't make any sense. And where is the value to us, okay, in our transformation, growth, anything else? What kind of people do you think are going to be in this forever place? Well, I know, you just think we're all going to sit there strumming harps and staring at him forever. Because he doesn't need us for anything. Why, okay, why is that appealing to anybody? I get he'll wipe away every tear, why that's appealing, there'll be no more pain and suffering. Why is it appealing to go to a place that you are told is heaven and do nothing? What is appealing about that? Why did he create you the way you are, wanting to be productive? Even those of you that struggle being productive, inside of you there's a thing that wants to be productive. Yet, would being productive so that one day we don't have to ever be productive again? That doesn't make any sense to me. What is appealing about this? I don't get it, okay? Why do you want to go to heaven and do nothing? Please, somebody answer that for me, because I don't get it. Because it seems to me that's what Christianity is selling you. They're selling you going to heaven. Did they ever tell you what you're going to do there? Nothing. You're just going to bask in the glory and just have nothing. You're going to be on this euphoric high. Like a forever drug addict, just a permanent stone. I don't know what it is. You'll all be mainlining Yeshua spirit or something. What is it that you're thinking it's going to be? It doesn't make any sense. You think I'm being all disrespectful. I'm trying to get your attention. I don't know what's appealing about all that. He didn't create you, put you through all this nonsense so you could grow into something so that you don't need what you grew into for anything. Because according to the way they teach it, once you get to heaven, that's it. There's nothing to do. It's all done for you. He did everything. So why did we need to go through all of this? Oh, well then, of course, Christianity says you're not going through anything. He did all the good stuff. The devil did all the bad stuff. So you just come along for the ride. No need to grow or change. Backsliders all get in. That's what the Baptist pastor told me. I asked him, I said, well, so what happens if this says every branch of me that doesn't bear fruit, John 15, said, what happens to those guys? Well, we call them backsliders. I said, well, do they still get in? He said, of course. And then what's the point? He couldn't answer me. I said, please tell me what the point is. If what you do doesn't matter, then why are we here doing all of this? Why doesn't he just bring us right there? Why have we been suffering for 2,000 years with him not coming? So you got to answer that question, all right? Because otherwise, there's no point to any of this. It's just him, actually, that makes him an evil being that's just torturing us, okay? If there's no point, and he could just bring us all up there anytime he wants, then there's no point. That's evil. He's just letting us all suffer miserably down here in this fleshly world for no reason. Or maybe you're meant to grow because he's got a purpose for you that he needs you to be strong enough and have grown enough to handle in the forever. Just maybe there's a good reason for this. I think the genius of all geniuses, the creator of all things, has a plan that needs you to grow to a point where you're useful. See, I haven't heard a thing out of Christianity that says that what I'll be useful for. Of what use will I be? Oh, they'll tell me what use I could be now. I need to go out there and convince everybody to believe a certain thing and bother people with that. But what use am I in the forever? What's the use of anybody in the forever? What's our purpose? What are we supposed to do? I have not heard that. Have you heard that? Am I making this up? I have not been in Christianity, so I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I've just heard what little I've heard out there. Am I wrong? Did they ever teach you in Sunday church what you're going to be doing? What happened? The whole purpose is just to go to heaven, right? To do what? To do what? How is that motivating anybody? Now, if you're at all a person that's ever suffered with boredom, telling me I'm going to sit and just strum a harp and bask in his glory sounds like hell to me. Not because it's not Messiah's glory, but that's it. That's forever. I'm just going to sit there. Like a stoned zombie smiling and basking in glory. What is that? You laugh. I'm serious. Okay? Does that make any sense? No. Please, all you Christians that are listening, I want you to do something that your church doesn't want you to do. I want you to think. That wasn't a joke. I'm not joking. I want you to think. You were given that 9 pounds or whatever it is on your shoulders. I want you to use it. I want you to think. Take that gray matter and start sparking a little bit. Okay? Does what you're being taught really make any sense? And the answer will be no, because it's nonsense. It does not make sense.
I will humbly admit, last night when you announced what you were going to be teaching next, like going home, I felt a very strange wave of fear. Like for first time, I was afraid of hearing a teaching of yours, which was not normal. But then I sat with it and
Because it was
meditated
dealing
on
with mortality?
Yes.
Nobody wants to deal with mortality, okay? We don't want to think that we're going to die someday. We don't want to think about that life ends, you know.
It's like I never really had a fear of dying because I know it happens eventually, but now actually just pondering on it, yeah, it does. A wave of fear does come. So this is I guess it's a bunch of little questions, but somehow rolled into one. I typed it out as best as I can to better say it. So you've said to do the best we can. It is our effort that Abba's looking for. I'm sure you've heard this question a lot. How do I know that I am putting in the most effort I can enter? Am I really, or is it my mind lying to me as a way to get myself out of doing the most because there is that fleshly part of me that doesn't want to put in the work? Is that a matter of is this a matter of not only believing that I can do it, but also having to learn to trust myself, or is that the same thing?
Okay, there's a lot to unpackage there. So look, all of us have different aspects, you know. Psychology will talk about the id and the ego and all these other things, right? But there's a part of you that is you. There's a part of you that is more the flesh, the desires, the cravings, the I don't want, I like, and all this other stuff. But there's this essential Shannon in there somewhere, right? And that's where you have to be able to be an outside observer of all this other stuff happening in you. So like when you get angry, is it really Shannon that's angry? Is it other chemistry going on in you that's angry? And you can sit outside of that, the real you, and go, why am I all angry? Why am I excited? Why am I happy? Why am I sad? Why am I doing this? Why aren't I doing that? There's got to be that part of you that really is the executive function driver that can evaluate, am I really putting in the effort? Okay? And you have to then make the effort to connect and embrace and drive from that place. That's the real you. Okay, and that's a hard thing to do. I have other people in counseling lately that are trying to find, they're trying to find themselves, so to speak, okay? Where they can identify who is really here. Because I know, all right, because I've been working on this for so long, I know when I don't put in a full effort. I know when I put in everything I've got. You should know that too, okay? Now, the voices should be the voices that are going to try to justify when you don't put in an effort. They say, oh no, it's okay, we didn't put the effort in. But then you know it's just a voice in you that's being lazy or doesn't want to do it or whatever it is. But you should know if you put it all out there. You should have the part of you that can get objectively through all of the subjective nonsense and say, I did everything. I put it all out there. I didn't leave anything on the table, so to speak, or in the locker, or whatever phrase works for you, right? Okay, put it all out on the field, okay? That's a part of you you need to connect with and trust, that you can be honest with yourself. There's parts of you that will lie to you. There's parts of you that will try to spin everything. You need to be able to catch yourself letting that voice talk. Catch yourself letting that kind of jump in the way, all right? And so that's you getting to know you, okay? And then deciding that you're in charge, not those other voices and not that other stuff. Stuff that was programmed into you by your parents and by culture and by your experiences and whatever it is that's in there, but where you choose and realize you have freedom of choice, where you can redeem the time and do whatever you want to do right now. okay? But then if you know you put in the full effort, you should feel good that no matter the result, that you put in the full effort. Don't let the result be the judge of whether you put the effort in or not. I put in a lot of effort in a lot of things that did not work. And I know that it didn't work. Well, I should say, I know that it wasn't the effort was the reason why it didn't work. It just didn't work. All of us have done that, put a ton of effort into stuff that didn't work. And yet, it doesn't mean you didn't put the effort in, okay? And there's things that you've done that have worked that you put almost no effort in. And that can happen. By the way, that should happen more and more as you get good at things. It should take less effort to do well, okay? So effort is not always the measuring stick, right? The measuring stick is the results you're looking for and making sure you're maximizing your effort that you need to get that result. And hopefully over time, it won't take as much effort because you get better and better at it, more efficient and more effective.
You were talking about going to heaven. Well, our teens, I was talking to our teens, why are we here? We are here to be builders. I gave them a picture of, I did some research on the universe. There are more than 400 trillion galaxies that scientists, astronomers have discovered. And each one of those galaxies has billions of stars. So this should give us a hint at what we'll be doing in the kingdom. We'll be co-builders with Almighty Yahweh. We'll help him build and continue to build this universe. I think that's one of our missions, is to be builders. And we're also builders here. We're building a work. And we're building a physical work just down the road here. And that's good, but we have to concentrate on what we're doing here now, building. And if we do that, we don't have to fear death. We have to look forward to our future as builders in cooperation with Almighty Yahweh.
Amen. Amen. And I think I've taught a lot of that in the Millennium and Kingdom teaching as well, all right? So, he may give you a solar system and say, have at it. Here's a solar system for you. Make something out of it. I mean, there's no telling, right? We don't know. And by the way, some of you might be like, I hope he doesn't do that. I don't want that kind of responsibility. Look, he's going to give you something congruent to who you are. Inadvertently, I just freaked out half the people. Like, I don't want that job. He knows you. He will give you something that fits you, not gives you fits. Okay?
This is so good. I love it. I mean, I know you've been talking about this teaching and happy you started on it. I really appreciated what you said with Yahweh gives us, and He knows how many days, how many years we have here, but that He will and can redeem the time, give us a chance if we actually do the best we can with whatever we have every day, right? I've been working on a project on the side, and there is like a program, a 6-month program, right? And the person who leads the program, he's a group of us, right? But he's our coach, and he was talking about this person that already graduated from it, who basically was attending every meeting, every call, every week, and no progress at all. And then one day she went, and I think she went to a seminar with Tony Robbins. She came back, and then like in 2 weeks she had done everything, like she killed it, right? And then of course the program is very successful. But the point is, we waste so much time, right? And I really appreciate what you said, that time is killing you, because I see that so much that we have it, but we're not taking the opportunities, and we're not doing the best with it, And I don't know if this is your experience. I think you have talked about this in the past, but I mean, up until maybe 5 years ago, I really felt like time was just going, and then it wasn't going as fast as I perceive it's going now. it feels to me that my days and my weeks are just flying. And
Wait till you turn 60. It's like
guess-
the gas pedal flattens.
I guess that's what it is. And maybe it's because we're becoming more wise, hopefully. I'm hoping that that's why. And that's what we're seeing what's important, what's not, what brings life and what doesn't. And we're actually more present and more productive, more creative. Like I love when that part of when Yahweh gave us that creativity in our brains. And it's just so beautiful when we're struggling through it, but then eventually we get through that and we bring something good that can serve other people and that can impact other lives, like you were saying, and bring out the quality of our lives higher. So it's just very inspiring, the message, Rabbi, today. Very, very inspiring. And so I just wanted to thank you for that.
Look, time does seem to move quicker when we're busy. Okay? Okay, you've ever been on a job? Remember when you were first starting working and you were younger and you'd get some mindless job that was torturously boring and it seemed like it would take, a 4-hour shift would take 20 hours. It just took forever. Then you get something else that kept you very busy. You're like, wow, how did that 4 hours disappear? Okay, so when you're productive, when you're busy with something to do, time does seem to move quicker, okay? I mean, it's just that illusion of how that works out, okay? So it really has to do with whether you're sitting around mind-numbingly bored and you don't know what to do with yourself. That seems like time just doesn't move at all. But when you're busy, it does seem to move very quickly. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it was growing up. I mean, we had so much free time and it just felt like an eternity and I wanted to grow up. But I also wanted to ask you about, I wanted to make a comment. You at some point at the beginning when you were saying, let me go back to that. I think you were talking about reality number 3, right? You were created, placed here to make decisions and to choices. And you were saying, well, how are you starting your day, right? And I just wanted to share a little bit. Are you like motivated, ready to go and all that? Or do you sleep enough? Do you eat well and all that? And I tend to go into my ups and downs with the self-care. But this week I was actually better. I did something different that has been helping me. And I have had the most productive week. And I think it's because I finally figure out, okay, this is what I need to be doing on a consistent basis to have the energy, to have the focus, to be in a very good, optimistic place, because sleep and all that will affect how I feel emotionally, mentally. And, I think that when you bring all that energy in and you put all that effort into yourself, a lot more can be accomplished. And I really appreciate that you touch on that too, because it can bring you down if you're not in the best. Sure. In the best mood or whatever.
Look, you guys need to understand something really important, okay? Your day will end better, okay, if you started it better, and your day will start better if you ended it better. So what do I mean? Okay, think of your day as ending an hour or a half hour before you go to sleep. Your day is over. Everything you do in that last half hour to an hour is about the next day, okay? The day is now finished. That last little bit before you go to bed, it should be what makes your next day go better, because when you wake up in the morning and you have not planned your day, you're losing time trying to think of what to do. You're losing time thinking about what to do. But if you've gone through maybe a little write down, a little notepad or something, said, okay, when I wake up in the morning, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and you have sort of a plan, you wake up with purpose. Okay? You know what time you need to be up to start that plan. You chose a wake-up time based on your plan. Okay? And so this is important that we have these things in place. So then your day will go better, which means that at the end of your day, before you get to that planning stage, you'll feel like you had a better day. You got things done, hopefully. You made some good choices and things like that, but you had a fairly productive day because you planned it out. Then you go into the planning, which is actually part of the next day. That last bit, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is that it takes before you go to bed to unwind, plan out what you're gonna do, starting with what time am I waking up, okay? All right, when I go to bed at night, one of the first things I do is I look at my calendar to say, okay, when's my first appointment in the morning? Make sure that I'm up with enough time to do self-care before that appointment, okay? And so I know when I wake up, I know what I'm doing, okay? The less you have planned, the more time you waste trying to think of what I want to do. What do I want to do, okay? Franklin Covey made a thing called the Franklin Planner years ago. Now everybody has everything digitally on their phone, but it was a book that you would have, like a day planner. And it came with an audio tape that explained, came with an audio tape that explained how to use the thing. And one of the things it explained was, the more organized you are, the more time you have, not less. Okay, because people say, well, if I schedule everything, then I feel like I have less time. No, you're much more effective when things are scheduled, because you waste a lot of time in the in-between task, indecisive moments of what to do next. But if you have those tasks scheduled, you know exactly what you're doing, when you need to stop and then shift to the next thing, etc. All right? So the more structured and organized you can be, the better you're going to be in terms of accomplishing things. But I think that all of you need to have a nighttime before bed routine and a first thing in the morning routine that sets up your day. Okay? Plus, if you have a night routine, getting all that stuff off your head and out of your head onto some paper for the next day frees you from having to think about it while you're trying to fall asleep, because you've already put it into the next day. All those things that might keep you up.
I just had a question about, if you are trying to accomplish something, like let's say you did your night routine, you know exactly what you want to do in the morning, you have A, B, and C, and you've tried to do A, B, and C and were blocked in each thing. So the next day you try again, it's not working. So the third day you say, I don't want to be that person that's going to do the same thing and get the same result. Let me try something different. And you proceed that way, and you continue to be blocked. What would you suggest? This is not a normal situation, I would say, but do you have any explanations or suggestions regarding trying to function under such conditions? Also, this is a two-part question. Food, shelter, and clothing are the basics for life. You need to have,
Right.
food, shelter, clothing,
Yeah.
safety. That's up there. What would you? This is the second part of the question. What would you say comes next after safety, food, shelter, clothing? So the first was being the type of person that likes to see things get accomplished, that likes to see your things that you plan to do pan out, and you're being blocked on every front. I mean, you might have to speak to that spiritually, I don't know. But then again, still, even if it's an unusual spiritual situation, what advice could you give so that you don't end up I just believe in God and I'm just going to keep on trying, and one of these days it's going to give and something is going to come out right.
All right, so we'll start with part one, okay? And part of this is because I know some of what you're talking about because we counsel, but the thing is, if you're attempting to do certain things on a regular basis and they seem to be blocked, whatever it is, it's not working, it's not happening, something's making it, hampering it in some way. I don't think these things generally are spiritual problems. I think there are some mechanical problems or actual physical problems that are causing whatever it is. That's where you would then either A, like you said, try some different ways to go about it. If those don't work, then you get counsel about it and see if there's something somebody else can see that is causing the blockage, okay? So that would be something that I would do. Or maybe try doing other things first and then maybe get some flow going, and then you can kind of sneak those things in that we're struggling later at a different point. And there just may be a different way to go about it, all right? Then the second part of your question is as far as what comes after food, shelter, clothing, safety. I think at that point, the next need would be to work on being able to increase the quality of life to all of those things, okay? So, I mean, there is basic shelter, basic food, basic clothing, but what other things would then bring more to the quality of life? Because those meet the very minimal needs, and so now you decide everything else you do is about quality of life. Look, there are some of you that have, well, let me start again. All of you have your own individual way of seeing quality of life, okay? Some of you can have quality of life at a much lower financial state than other people. Some, it's just what you see is quality of life. No judging anybody, but you may need to then work on things like income because you need more income for the quality of life you desire, okay, as far as those physical things. Now, the other quality of life things all have to do with personal development and relationships and your mental health, your emotional health. These are all things that have nothing to do with money. These are things that you need to just make sure that you're learning how to level up those areas and develop the relationships and the other things that you need to do, okay? Things that, and same thing with quality of life, even with health. Better quality food, better routine as far as exercise and movement. It's not so much that you need exercise, you need to move. You need movement, okay? And so exercise is a type of movement, but you need movement, all right? But I would say the quality of life would be next, and that would be in all 7 areas I would work on.
Right. From Tom Lasardo in Ephesians 5:17, the desire of Elohim could be, Ecclesiastes 12:13 through 14.
Okay, let us hear the conclusion of the entire matter. Fear Elohim, guard his commands, for this is what applies to all mankind. Yes, I mean, look, absolutely I would say that those things do fit together.
All right, from Olivia, Rabbi, is existence a state of mind or being you're constantly in? How do we know we're not having a rough patch while living versus just existing?
How do you know that you have the flu? How do you know that you have a cold? How do you know that you're feeling good? I mean, it's not a permanent state, but you feel off. We talked about existence being a state where it's like weariness, complacency, hopelessness, okay? Rebelliousness into I'm just gonna do what I want and don't care about anybody or how the results are and everything else. It's just completely being in the now from the point of view like I don't care about a future, even though I teach you to be in the now as a part of how you get to a future. But if you're in the now not even caring about where that's gonna lead and what it's gonna do to you or anything else, that's part of existence. Eat, drink, and be merry because tomorrow we die type of thing. It's like, I don't care. I'm just existing. I'm just gonna do whatever. And so, so when you say, how do we know we're not just having a rough patch? No, you could be just having a rough patch. But in that rough patch, you could be in a mindset of existence versus growing, versus living, okay? If you stay there too long, you're gonna end up in a ditch really badly.
From ALC, what advice can you give to someone that doesn't have goals or dreams? They make a good living and don't have kids or spouse and don't feel like they need anything else to be quote unquote complete.
All right, I don't find that to be cohesive. What I mean is, you can have a good living and no kids, spouse, or whatever, and feel like you don't need anything. That doesn't mean you don't want to accomplish anything. Okay, there are 7 areas of your life to be setting goals in and to leveling up. I do not claim to have accomplished more than anybody, but I've accomplished a bunch, and yet I don't have an end to what I would like to continue to accomplish in all the 7 areas, okay? So, when you say, what do you give someone who doesn't have goals and dreams? I don't know what to tell you. Why don't you want more? Okay, why don't you want better everything? Why don't you want better mental health, physical health, finances, spiritual life, relationships, community? Why don't you want more? Okay, I don't know why you don't want more. But I'm glad you have contentment, okay? But contentment can turn into complacency, can turn into all that other stuff. So you don't necessarily, if you make a good living, you don't necessarily need to make more. But there's other areas to focus on. If you finally get, an area or 2 exactly where you want it to be, then fine, spend all your energy on the ones that are not. You can't tell me that all 7 of your areas are just fine. They're not. Okay? None of you are there. Okay? I'm not. Okay? And so, you're not looking at, to set goals means putting in an effort. You may be getting complacent and comfortable. Okay? Comfort, being comfortable, okay, is a sign of heading into existence. Okay? Because when we're comfortable, we stop stop doing the things that got us into the level of comfort, okay? I'm not saying that you shouldn't be comfortable, okay? But you should always want more. That's not a wrong mindset of greed or this or that. It's just saying this, I want the next level up. What is the next level up? Maybe I make a good living, so the next level up is to maybe create a legacy for others. I mean, there's things I teach in the Level Up program that you can do without having to make any more money, because that part maybe is where you got. Maybe you have your living to where you make enough money. But now you have to decide what to do with that money. What more things can you do with it that you haven't done? Take the Level Up class and you'll have plenty of things to set goals on, okay? Your health should be a never-ending project. Because just when you think you got it right, all of a sudden something goes sideways. You go, where'd that come from? Why is that hurting? Why isn't that feeling right? Okay? Maybe you're too young for that. You'll get there, okay? I don't know. Okay? Don't tell me your psycho-emotional health is right. I don't know anybody whose psycho-emotional health is right. Okay? We all could grow and work on the mental and emotional parts of our lives. Okay, so you haven't gotten there yet. So these are things to set goals in. But if you want to understand how to set goals and dreams, I'm assuming you haven't taken the Level Up class. Take the class. Okay, and there will be inspiration there on how to choose and set your goals or your targets. I call them targets in the class. Okay, something to aim at.
All right, from Deb's Health and Wellness, two-parter. To tag on to Brianna's question, Rabbi, do you have any suggestions to those of us who can't wait to get back to getting after it and hitting it hard, but can't because of health challenges? For example, I'm still recovering from caretaker burnout and feel like I'm only at half my stride.
Okay, and by the way, let me just stop here. One last thing for the question the other person asked. You do not need to feel bad or need to think it's inappropriate that you don't feel like you need a spouse or children or whatever it is, that you have contentment with your state. Okay? I mean, there's no requirement that you have to have those things. If you're comfortable and content, that's fine. But there should be in the 7 areas, okay? If you've got friendships, you can improve them. Your health, you can improve. What you're doing with your money, you can improve whether or not you make enough money or not. What you're doing with your mental health, you can improve. All these things can be improved, okay? All right, now back to Deb's question. All right, if you're recovering from caretaker burnout or any kind of burnout, okay, what I have found is, now maybe this is me, is that I get re-energized by doing something, but doing something different, okay? So it's not just doing nothing to recharge. Okay? Most of us can remember being younger, and when we were younger, we worked hard and we played hard. But we were re-energized by playing hard. Okay? So having something to do can re-energize you as long as it's very different than the thing that burns you out. Okay? So when I go on a cruise ship for a vacation, it's fixing the burnout of needing everybody pulling on me. I need you for this, I need you for that, okay? Because that's what my life is most of the time, which I'm not complaining, but it can get to a little bit of a burnout at some point, okay? But I'm very active on the boat. I go for walks around the boat, I do exercise in the gym, I do some of the shows, I'm actively doing stuff. I'm not just laying in a bed, resting and refreshing because I'm burned out. I just don't want that thing that I'm burned out. So if you were a caregiver, you need to go do something that nobody needs you to care for them, okay? Go be very actively doing something that refreshes you where nobody needs you to take care of them, okay? Because that's what I do when it's a vacation for me. It's a family thing, then I'm there to make sure to be there and let them pull on me and everything else. But when we're going someplace because daddy needs some time off, okay, then I tell everybody, don't need me. You can ask my daughter, my wife, I've said that. We go on a boat, I'll do things with you guys and everything else, do whatever you don't need me. All right, I need a couple of days of not being needed. Okay, not so much being wanted. They can come and jump in my lap, my kids back when they were little or whatever, my wife can come be with me. But I need you this, I need you for that, I need you for this. I was burned out from that, so to speak, right? Not really, I don't think I was burnout. I just needed a break. Some people call it burnout. I don't think I ever had a burnout, but certainly be nice to have a break. So that break meant leave me alone, let me do something else. very actively, which engages, right? Refreshing comes from engaging in something else, okay? Too much downtime, all you do is think about what you're not doing that you used to do that you're burned out about. So you don't need to be in your head. If you ever saw me on the boat, I'm sitting there in the buffet with my laptop out and my notebooks out and my scriptures out or whatever it is, and I'm doing my thing because I like to do this, okay? I'll take it with me on quote-unquote vacation. I just don't want anybody needing counsel and guidance and advice and tell me what to do and how should I handle this and what do I do about that for a couple of days, okay? And so if you're a caretaker, make sure you go out and do stuff that will refresh you because nobody needs you to caretake.
All right. Another question from Olivia. Rabbi, we redeem the time in Ephesians 5:16 by the choices we make today, not tomorrow, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. Is that correct?
Yes.
From Eddie Helton. Post-stroke, I struggle with the lack of wanting to do more. The feeling of quote-unquote desiring isn't there anymore. Not sure of how to get beyond that.
I hate to quote Dirty Harry, but a man's got to know his limitations. I had to throw another movie quote in for you. Okay, look, you're post-stroke. Okay, so what you have for you, Eddie, is a new normal. What your normal was before the stroke is not your normal now. Okay? And so it's not about struggling with a lack of wanting to do more. Have you had peace in what the actual limits are and what you can do? Have you pushed to find out what those are? Okay? I think everybody should push to find their limits. Because how do you know if you're underachieving until you push and find out what your limits are? Okay? And by the way, please, this is something I want to encourage all of you. Nobody is to ever, this is not me dictating. I think it would be a bad idea. It never really goes well, and it's not respectful for you to decide what someone else's limits are. Okay? I've had people over the years, many people, think that I'm going to burn out and there's too much on my plate and I take too much on myself. And my bandwidth is not your bandwidth. Okay? I've not found too much limits to mine yet with the things that I choose to do, okay? But that's just me. And so when you think, well, Rabbi, you're going to just burn out. People have told me that for all these years, okay? I have not, I said, you know what? I know when I'm pushing. Well, I think I will if I ever get there. But I know when I'm pushing, okay? And I'm not. You know, having to write a teaching in a day was certainly within my realm of the thing. You know what I'm saying? The burnout thing, I don't know where people think. It's because they're projecting into me because they would be struggling or they just want to take stuff for their own authority off my plate so they can run it. But that's been over the years, that's been a problem. Don't do that to people. Don't project into them their limits. Let them find their own limits. Respect their limits. If they say, look, this is where my limit is, then you can respect that. That's where they think it is. If you are close enough, you may want to encourage them if you think they really can do more and say, yeah, I think maybe if you really could push, you could do a little bit more. That's based on your relationship, if that allows for that, right? But don't you limit somebody, okay? Now, if you're dealing with someone with a handicap of some sort and there's something they really can't do, you know, help them have peace with, look, that's something you just can't do anymore. But let's see what you can do and get to as close to it as you can. Let's find out where that limit really is, okay? Because you might not be able to do what you used to do. Eddie's dealing with the recovering from a stroke. Okay, so there may be some things he just can't do at the moment. He might recover more and do more, but at the moment, you gotta find out where your limits are. The only way to find that out is to push, to explore where those limits are, okay? Otherwise, how would you know? And so, you know, so the feeling of desiring isn't there, then it's just not there. You can still choose and say, well, I might not have this desire to do more, but do I want, in terms of the results, do I want to do things that require more? Okay? And look at the 7 areas. So it's not about desiring it, but just maybe just making a logical choice, saying, I need to move this thing up. Not that I want to or have this desire to, I just recognize it's a need. I should move this thing up.
From Alden, automation and delegation is also part of redeeming the time?
No. Look, automation and delegation is more time effectiveness. Redeeming the time has to do with how you're using the time. Are you using it for nonsense and foolishness, or are you using it for productive, growth, okay? Growth would include owning, repentance, and all these other parts of the process, growing into Yeshua-like state, learning to love your Heavenly Father, learning to love each other in an appropriate way. You can't automate those things. But if you use automation and delegation, you can free up time to do those things. But it's those things when you do them that is redeeming the time, okay? Making better use of the time. Now, using automation and delegation may free up more time so that you can then do more things. But it's what you do with the time you have that is redeeming it. Does that make any sense? Okay? Because I could use automation and delegation to give me a lot of free time, and I could just do all kinds of dumb things with it, useless, not productive things with it, even though I did free up a bunch of time. So it's really, what do I do with the time? Okay? That's redeeming it. So using automation and delegation is just wisdom. Delegate everything you can, automate everything you can. Lots of guys out there teach that. I mean, you got Tim Ferriss with the 4-Hour Work Week and those kind of books that are out there that just teach everybody. Anything that you can give somebody else to do and take off your plate, please do that. You will be much more productive. But the intention is so that you could be more productive. So if it's something somebody else could do, why are you doing it? Okay, why are you doing it? Somebody else can do it, somebody else should be doing it, because you should be able to do something that's more productive.
All right, and this is the last one, Rabbi. From Armageddon out of here, can you explain the meaning of prolong your days as often appears in the Torah in relation to today's teaching?
I don't know if I can relate it to today's teaching, except from the point that prolonging your days is pointing at, as an idiomatic phrase, to the eternal life, okay? It's just the Old Testament sort of idiomatic way of saying the forever, all right? So when it says, you will prolong your days, it's talking about that, okay? They just use different ways of saying things, just like we use different ways of saying things. As a matter of fact, we use different ways of saying things depending on what country or even what part of the particular country you live in. It could be different. We have different phrases that, are a way to communicate certain things that we all use. So prolonging your days is almost always referring to something in the range of the idea of the forever. So that's going to end the teaching for today.